So today on the podcast, we have a very special guest. Kevin Brouet is a friend of mine since a very long time. As long as I can remember, me and Kevin have been good friends. All right. So Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, yeah, man. I'm Kevin. I've known you since the day one. But me, I'm just your regular guy. I put my pants on one leg at a time. There's nothing too special about me. Like I just give my 2 cents. That's pretty much it. I mean, I've gone to school. I've done a whole lot of stuff. I've been driving big vehicles to flying planes to operating boats. I like to do things. Just pretty much anything I can get my hands on. You know, that's that's who I am. I don't know what else to tell you guys.
Okay. So essentially, the reason we brought Kevin here was because we're going through Adventist Home, and a big part of Adventist Home is talking about choosing your partner. And when I first met John, that was actually one of our first conversations. Was a theory that Kevin came up with, because when we met, obviously we didn't have the same beliefs. We didn't agree on most things, and I didn't understand why two people couldn't date with two different sets of beliefs. So then John explained to me briefly the GAAA, which is Kevin's theory, which is why we brought him here, because he explains it better than John does.
Well, normally, I wish this was like one of these like recorded podcasts, and I had my demonstrator, because I normally give a master class where I have all of these little examples, and they all tie in together, and it's just fun to watch. But essentially, like the GAAA, like I was chilling with one of my boys, and he's just like, you know what? I figured out what I want in a partner. I'm like, okay, what's that? He's like, the GAAA. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? He's like, yo, this person's gotta be godly, aesthetic, athletic, and academic. I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying. But after time was going, I said, you know what? This order is kind of weird, but let me see what I can do with this. And I was just sitting down, starting a Word document, and it just flowed and flowed and flowed. And like I read the Adventist Home, I read messages to young people, and as I was going through, I'm like, these are all things that we should actually be keeping at the forefront in our mind, because I don't know about any of you, but the church I go to and a lot of the other churches I've gone to, everybody's out here. They all want to get with somebody, but a lot of the time they don't know how to go about it. They just say, yo, listen, I like the way this person looks, and let me go for it. And then lo and behold, it doesn't last. They don't have that training. So I said, you know what? Let me just get all of my knowledge, and let me ask people who have been doing this, like married couples who have been successful. And I said, let me write this, get their 2 cents and everything. And this document I have right here, this is from my knowledge as a current. If anybody would like to talk to me, have a conversation, I'm always open. We can always change stuff around if it aligns with what God has to say. I'm cool with that.
Okay, so explain like through the letters, like what, like it starts with G, so God fearing. How does that come into play?
So I understand, like right now we're not going to have a lot of time to actually go deep. So I'm just going to give you like the quick surface answer. And I'm sure later on we can go look at each letter in depth and understand it more. But basically, the GAAA, like we already know, is how what you're looking for in a partner. We look at the G, which is God-fearing. Understand, we look at it, see how this person relates to God. Because you get two people who have two different viewpoints. And I'm sure you two were in that situation before, And I'm sure if, John, you put a ring on it without explaining why you believed what you believed, we would be in a much different situation today, Yeah. So it's like, for me, God fear, you need to understand how their relationship with God is first. And I like to use this example here where you get the love triangle. A lot of the time people want to talk about love triangles. It's three people, a guy that likes two girls or a girl that likes two guys, something like that. And I like to, let me use some math terms here. That's one of those equilateral love triangles, We don't want that, We want that isosceles love triangle where A is at the top, and the only way that B and C can get together is by striving to get to A, where God is A, Okay, and to me, that's the best way to do it, because you look at it and we say don't be unequally yoked. A lot of the time people hear that, like when I first heard that unequally yoked, like what are you talking about eggs for? You know, like that that was literally my first thought. And then I asked some people, yo, what does yoked mean? Oh, it's when two animals are locked together. Like no one was giving me answers. So I said, okay, what does this mean? Being yoked is like it has to do with farming. Okay, you have two oxen to plow the field. Now we have combines and big tractors that do that, but back in the day they had two ox. If one ox was much smaller than the other, the bigger one would drag the smaller one, and because there's that resistance on its left or on its right, it would start turning in circles. Now I don't know if you've seen many circular fields, but I haven't. I see a lot of rectangular fields, and you need to get from point A to point B and back from point B to point A, going back and forth in a straight line. And I know one thing, that driving in circles will never get you from point A to point B. So that's why I feel that G is the first thing, being God-fearing and understanding your partner and how your partner relates to God and how that can have an impact on your relationship. Mm-hmm. Now we go to the second A. And I'm sure if you listen to the intro, you're going to say, oh, but that's not what you said at first. And I know. Our first A is academic, okay? You need to understand the mind, okay? Be able to have a conversation with your partner, because a lot of people, they look at their partner, oh, this person's so beautiful, they're so good looking, and yeah, they want to get into a relationship, but looks fade. If you can't have a conversation and you're married with somebody, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be in a relationship. I can't talk to my wife. That just doesn't seem interesting to me. Now, it's not basically saying, yo, you gotta be smart, like all that, you know, because we do recognize that people's intelligence are all across the board, you know, and it basically states, yo, listen, if you're striving to better yourself and your partner's striving to better yourself, if you're smarter than them or they're smarter than you can still work with that, okay? You can move forward because there's that willingness to learn. If the person's out here, they can be the smartest person but not want to learn, you are going to have problems. You are going to have problems. Now, the second A, athletic. A lot of people think this means you're in the gym all day, every day. But no, it just basically means you take care of your body, you know? Now, here in Ontario, if you get any part-time job, one of the requirements is to hold 50 pounds, okay? Now, as we strive to be more like Christ, I believe our calling is higher than that of the earth, you know? So if a basic standard is to be able to hold 50 pounds, I feel you should be able to hold 50 pounds, you know? Because you're trying to surpass what is on earth, you know, to be something better. So that's a good place to start, you know? So athletic also does not just mean your body, but also your mind, you know, what you're putting into your mind, who you hang out with, because that really shapes your character, you know? Well, of course, we'll go in deeper. But the last thing, and this is one of the important things, okay? A lot of people might disagree, and I'm willing to have this conversation with them, but aesthetic, the way they look, okay? Because you can say, but what if they have the G and the first two A's? Yes, that's great. But we are humans, you know? And some people might not have a strong relationship where they would say, you know what? I've married this person, but they look like a horse, you know? Like some people, like it's just not doing it for them, you know? That's the thing. People are out here and they say, oh, but only men are visual. It's like, no, listen, everybody is visual. Like people like to look at good things. A guy can admire a rose as a woman can admire a rose, you know? There's beauty in everything. But if you are trying to be with someone for the rest of your life and you are not visually and physically attracted to them, that puts another strain that is not needed on the relationship. If you can do it, knock yourself out. But I need you to understand that aesthetic is the first thing you see, but the last thing that should keep you in the relationship, which is why it's the last thing in the GAAA. Because like a lot of people, they will not approach anybody if they're looking some sort of ways, which is why even in society, you look at this. Women put a lot of work into their look, as do men. So guys are at the barber once a week, getting their lineup in this. Women are out here buying new makeup, new clothes to look good because that's what attracts people. You put on a smile, someone will see that and say, oh, you know what? This person seems friendly. Let me go talk to them. Now, if you look like you just came off the street and you have a scowl on your face, the chances of you getting a significant other are quite low. So that's basically what the GAAA is, And of course, there's a whole lot more that goes into it, but this is just a surface.
Yeah.
Nice. So now that we've gone over the surface of the GAAA, could you go more in depth into each letter? Because I know you have subsections in every category, and the document is fairly lengthy. Can you first, before we go into that, can you tell us a little bit more about the document?
About the document?
Like, how long is it? What have you worked on? Is it available online?
Okay, well, no, it's not available online yet. It's normally like, if you ask, I'll send it to you. Right now, we have it translated in both English and French, for those francophones, Now, don't ask me if you find any, like, spelling errors. Like, I'm not a French speaker. I'm not, like, I can read it, I can understand it, but, like, I'm not too good with the French rules, Like, if you see a mistake, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that's all I can say. But yeah, I have some other people, they want to translate it into other languages. And then, hey, if you're listening to this and you would like a copy to translate to your native tongue, by all means, I'll send it over. Because, like the gospel of Jesus Christ, this should be shared throughout the whole world,
Amen.
But that's just my thought. That's my thought.
Honestly, I completely agree. Because there's people that are outside the church that I've talked to, and I'm like,
yeah.
they talk to me about people that they're going after. They go after people. I'm like, what do you see in them? And they're like, I don't know. Like, we sleep together. And I'm like,
that's it.
That
That's
means
all?
absolutely nothing. Because, I mean, sex is something, but it's not the end all. It's not, like, you need to be able to spend the rest of your life with this person and actually enjoy the time that you spend with them.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's interesting to see how many people, when you start explaining to them, even just a brief, like, Coles notes of the GAAA are so fascinating. Like, wait a minute, what?
There's rules?
Wait, there's more to this dating thing than just I like the way they look and I like the way they make me feel. What?
Believe me, there's a whole lot, and you guys are going through Adventist home. I'm sure you're realizing there's a whole lot.
There's a whole lot more.
Now, as you were asking about which letters mean what, like actually going into depth, I'm going to give you a quick disclaimer right now. Under God-fearing, I didn't write too much because when I was writing this, I was writing this for an Adventist audience, a well-versed Adventist audience, right? So they already know that term and what that means. So if you would like, you could go deeper into just the term God-fearing, what that means, as I give what this means. Because for me, what I have here, I'm not going to read it out, but God-fearing, like I already stated before, it's knowing that you and your partner have the same respect for God, because here's a 0 to 100 example. You, say John, right? You were born in the church. You grew up in the church. Now you have that instilled fear for God, okay? And you're like, I respect God. I want to do his work. You're good, right? Now you see Brittany and you say, you know what? Let me marry her before any transformation has happened, right? Now, I didn't know you before you came to the church, right? Yeah. So I can't really speak to anything, but say you guys get married and you have your first child, you're like, John, you're like, hey, I want to dedicate my child to the Lord. Brittany's just like, well, what are you talking about? Because now you both have conflicting views, And a lot of the times people fall into that trap. They see somebody and it's like, oh, listen, they're sitting in the pew in church. They're so godly. I need you to understand, like, what you see is just a surface. I remember I went to one of these youth retreats and I was talking with one of the elders and they look at me. It's like, yo, Kevin, why don't you go for one of these lovely young women? I was just like, Auntie, understand this. What you see at church is 1 out of 7 days. And the thing is, if you had access to Instagram, access to Facebook, Snapchat, and all these other social medias, you're going to see that what they portray at church is not what they're portraying to the world. And personally for me, I like consistency. If I say yes, my yes is yes. My no is no. But when you have somebody living 2 different lives, that's something they need to deal with first. Okay?
Yeah, it's just like how what we tell our kids when we go to Camporee. I remember we had a lot of problems at Camporee 2014. We had stuff stolen, air mattresses slashed, and I had to go tell my Pathfinders. I was like, guys, everyone here is Adventist, but not everyone here is a Christian. You got to understand that. Just because they're here doesn't mean they're going to be acting the right way. It's the same thing at church. Like my dad explains to the Sabbath school class and a lot of people, he's like, yo, church is a hospital full of sinners. But keep in mind, it's a house full of sinners seeking repentance. There's still a lot of sinners in there.
That's the thing. But back to the example I was saying. Now, say you have the child. There's a conflict there. You want to dedicate the child. Your wife doesn't want to dedicate the child. That's already tension, okay? Okay, say you go either way. You dedicate or you don't. That really doesn't matter. Right? At this point, that's the tension between you and your spouse. Child grows up. What are you teaching the child? Why does mommy or daddy not go to church? Why does daddy or mommy go to church? What's going on? Now the child has two conflicting theologies going on. This child is confused. There's no unity, you know? And we understand that a man and a woman should be one unit. We understand this under God. When two people are conflicting, are they really one unit under God? That's the thing. Now, as I say, I don't really have much written on this because most of the Adventists I talk to, they understand what's going on. Like I already explained being equally yoked with the whole oxen being walking around in circles. We know that. But Auntie Ellen, she gives us a nice example. And we talk about the term flirt to convert. You ever hear that, guys?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what can you tell me about flirt to convert?
Oh, it's...
The first time I heard that was from your family because they thought that that's what was happening. But when I heard of it, I was insulted because I was like, do you seriously think that I am so shallow that I would go out of my way to change my entire lifestyle just to be with him? No offense, but you're not that special.
I don't want to be the one to say it. You know?
It's a fact of life because like I see a lot of people who have come into my Pathfinder club and into my Sabbath school class who are trying to do the flirt to convert thing. I'm like, honey,
they're gonna end up
it's
converting
not
you.
It happens.
We're going to get to that
every single time. Like you try, like no matter how hard you try to pull, you know, against a solid object.
It'll pull back.
To be fair, I tried to convert you into what I was doing, except, I mean, obviously God won in that situation.
Praise the Lord.
But back when we first met, I literally was like, I'm not going to read the Bible if you don't look into what I do. I want you to at least take into consideration. And he grew up being told, don't play in the devil's sandbox. Don't go.
We all were.
It was like, don't go outside that box. But I would have never found God had he not sat with me and picked up my box of tarot cards. And I was offended when he was like, this does nothing. And I was like, what do you mean?
There was a lot of prayer that went into before like she passed them to me. I'm like, Lord Jesus, please help me not to be possessed. Thank you, Lord.
Pick that up. Just nothing.
I looked at those cards. I'm like, I mean, they're pretty, but not
Are they
really.
pretty though?
Not really. No, they're kind of ugly. And I was just like, here.
I made him read books about crystals. I bought him crystals. I went all out. And I was like, I want you to understand what I do. And I'll try to understand what you do. And I almost cried the first time that I actually held a Bible. Because
I was concerned. I was like, are you okay? Are you burning?
I was concerned that if I picked it up, I would burst into flames. Yeah. But, I mean, if me as a non-Christian who didn't grow up with any certain, like specific belief was trying to convert you into what I believed, and it went nowhere, like, where would it go if someone had a strong belief in something, opposite. It just doesn't go anywhere. You end up fighting each other all the time.
More often than not, I'd probably say 9 out of 10 times, the person who's trying to flirt to convert will lose. It's that 10% of the time that you may be successful, and even then, even if you do get them in, it may not be a nice relationship.
Yo, bro, when you said that 10%, watch this. So you see in the GAAA, I do take quotes from certain Ellen White books and from the Bible, of course. Now, we're talking about flirt to convert, you know? Now, you guys are what, chapter 6 right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
In 3 chapters, in chapter 9, she basically talks about that. She's like, 9 times out of 10, this does not work. Okay? It actually doesn't work. And I don't know about you, but whenever you're investing and you have a 90% failure rate, I need you to know that that's a poor stock, okay? Like, don't invest in that. That makes no sense. But a lot of people are here, they want to join their life with somebody who will 9 times out of 10 pull them further away from God and then you bringing them to God. Yes, that 10%, it's amazing and it's great when it happens. But this is not saying, you know what? Let me be the special person and go out and convert to flirt these people. We get the whole flirt to convert. We get her cousin convert to flirt, where people actually leave the church and go to other churches or other things to go find somebody. This does not help anybody. It does not. Okay? Like you literally just left your safe haven to go do whatever you want, to find somebody out in the world, to find somebody out who does not share the same mindset as you.
Also,
And,
like you leave your core values to go after someone, and when you meet that person, they're looking at you. But who are you? And you just went and threw out everything that you are. So now you don't even know who you are, and they don't even know who you are.
And at that point, you're just a body.
That's the thing.
That's all you've got. You don't have insides anymore.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because as you say, you're just a body. I've known a whole lot of people who do go through life just like that. On to the next thing. Oh, I'm dating this person. Oh, it didn't work. I'm on it. But at the same time, sometimes you need to sit back and say, what is actually going on? What am I doing? Who am I? Because when you don't know your purpose, what are you going to do? Okay?
Facts.
If I have a screwdriver, I don't know what a screwdriver is. I've never seen a screwdriver. I'll be out here beating in nails with it. You know, like, that's not what it's made for. You know, it's made for screws. Use it for screws. You know? But listen, I digress. But yeah, so the G is God-fearing. In fact, you know what? I assume this podcast is not just heard by Adventists, you know?
No. Yeah.
So what does the term God-fearing actually mean, John?
Well, if you look into the Bible and you start studying the definition of, God-fearing, fear of God, and if you look up the actual definition of fear in the Webster Dictionary, it says to be in awe and have a great deal of respect for someone, usually a deity. All right, so if you fear God, you have such a respect for him that you are in awe of who he is. You're just like, oh my goodness, God is just... So someone who's God-fearing is someone who respects God. That's it, period. That's where it ends.
Okay. So, do you guys have any other, little takes on the G part of the GAAA?
For me, I think that, outside of Adventism or, Christianity as a whole... it kind of means not necessarily be on the same plane of beliefs. If you don't believe in God, don't hook up with someone that does believe in God.
Yeah. Find someone who shares core values, core beliefs, even if it's not something that you found in the Bible. It's just, if you believe killing is wrong, don't hook up with a serial killer. Don't hook up with someone who goes around murdering people if you do not believe that murder is... You
will tell somebody, like you say, if you don't believe in murder, don't marry a murderer. Yeah. You're going to marry a murderer. Oh, this is so good. It's like, you killed somebody? I was like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I've been doing this. You knew this before we got together. So I assumed you were okay with this. Oh, but no, I'm not okay with this.
And I mean, Ellen White talks about that too. She's like, she pretty much says, to paraphrase, don't be stupid. Ask the hard questions before you're going to marry someone. And if you're engaged and you find red flags, they're red flags anyways. Back out.
No, that's the thing.
Yeah, just because you're engaged doesn't mean you need to get married. The engagement is your last period to find things out.
Stress test.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And now you talk about engagement. A lot of these women, when they're looking for a partner, first thing in their head is, can I marry this person? Now, don't get me wrong. That's a great thing to go into. Who doesn't want to get married? You are spending all this time with this person. Yes, you would want to marry this person. But I feel it's too early for that question. This person had said, hey, let's go out to dinner. And you're like, oh, you don't, I don't see a ring. Where's the ring? You don't know the person. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like that makes no sense. And a lot of people are turned down based on that. Like I know a lot of girls, a lot of females, a lot of women, whichever term you want to use, because they're using all these things I can't keep up. You know, they want to say, "Oh, I'm in the church, but no guy likes me." I'm just like, "Honey, what are you talking about? All the guys in the church like you." He was like, "Oh yeah, but this guy, he works outside. I don't want to live with someone who works outside." I'm like, "Bro, that's right now. Like, what are you talking about? Have you spoke to them?" "No, but this person has red hair." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" You know, like all these little superficial things. They don't want to take time to get to know them. And I get it. I get it. You want the best person in your life. I understand. But the thing is, are you the best person? You don't want to look at yourself and you want to say, "Yo, this guy is A, B, C, and D," and you want to cut them. Or maybe you do want to give them a chance, but you are so afraid of marriage. And yes, I can understand in the Adventist church, you see any old person sees two young people sitting together of the opposite sex. It's like, "Oh, well, marriage counseling happens after church today." And it's like, "Yo, relax." You know, like I was just listen to the sermon, just sitting beside my friend, like, "Oh, you sure?" And like, there's a whole lot of weight that goes on it, especially like when it comes to dating within the church, which I feel is why a lot of people look outside of the church.
It's just way too much pressure.
A lot of pressure. So it's like a lot of people think, "Yo, I go out on one date with this person, I have to get married to them." You know, it's like that's not the case. Look, I need to eat, you need to eat. Let's eat together and have a conversation. That's literally it. That's literally it.
Honestly, I don't like that culture of like, because
you have to find the one from jump.
Yeah,
the moment you date them.
We talked about that with your sister about like you can't expect to never date this person and then the first time you date and in a year you're married. You can't do that. You have to date. You have to find out what you don't like, what you do like. You have to go around and meet people and understand what the world is like, because if you don't do that, you're in your own little bubble, and then you're like, it needs to be like this, 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 and this, and then, oh, well, he doesn't check box number 27, so nope, but there's no perfect person. You have to compromise on things.
It's the same thing with shopping around for cars, which is my explanation for like the GAAA. If you don't go test driving vehicles, how are you supposed to know that this is the vehicle for you?
That's the thing.
Never walk onto a lot and just like, that one looks good, looks like it can get me from point A to point B. That's fine. Unless that's what you're looking for, it's just a car to get you.
Listen, let me give you a story on that. I'm gonna put my brother on blast just now. So like for me, like anybody who knows my family, they know I love my vehicles, I love my cars, I love my planes, I love my boats. Like you talk to me about something mechanical, we can talk for years, okay? But you talk to my brother, you say, "Hey, why'd you get this car?" My brother, God bless his soul, okay? Man had several cars, you know? Now, his recent car that he had, it was jokes to me. It was jokes to me. Now, when I buy my car, I do so many things. I do the test drive like you were saying, you know? I look at the consumer reports. I look at how much does this car cost over a year for gas, you know? How much does this cost in parts? How much does it cost for this is, you know? I'm looking at everything. And I come down and it's like, okay, how long does this car normally last, you know? These are all things I take into consideration. When my brother needed to get a car, he's like, "Yo, I just need a car to get me from point A to point B." I'm like, "Bro, what are you talking about? Do some research." He's like, no, I got this. So we went to this dealership and saw, like, I could swear this car was from the 90s. It looked like that, you know? Like a Hyundai Elantra or some old looking thing, you know? My brother, I'm like, "Yo, how much is this?" "Yo, 1,500. I'm like, "Bro, send that back, bro." He's like, nah, it was cheap. It's getting me from point A to point B. I'm like, "Bro, when you see a car that cheap, you're going to be paying for that in maintenance." He's like, nah, whatever. I say, "Okay, listen, you're an adult." And I feel it's that older brother pride. John, I don't know for you listeners, but me and John were both middle children. And we know the struggle. We work the hardest, get the least recognition. You want to tell your older brother something? Now they know it all, you know, because they're a couple of years older than you? Yo, come on. You know, you don't know it all. But these older brothers will never get it. You know, John, they'll never get it.
The struggle is real.
Yo, the struggle is real, bro. Anyway, so my brother gets the car. He's zipping around, having his fun. I say, "Okay, bro. Okay. You do your thing." And then one day the radiator blew. I'm like, bro, what happened? Yo, I was just driving and boom. Then I just started smoking. I'm like, well, this is what happens when you buy a $1,500 car. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you have to get rid of it. And as you're saying, this is the thing in the relationship. If you're not doing your preliminaries, you're not asking the right questions, you're not putting people, I shouldn't say putting people in situations to see how they react. That sounds kind of sociopathic, and we're going to back up from that. But like, if you don't know how they act, you know, in certain situations, you are going to be, one, embarrassed by them. You are going to be shocked by them, and things aren't going to work. Because, like, let's take this. The radiator blowing, right? The car doesn't work. What it needs to do, point A to point B, it can't do that anymore. You say, hey, you go find a girl, you come date her for 10 years. Say, that's a long time. Yeah, no, I'll put a ring on it. But you come, you date the girl for a time. And then she comes up and is like, yeah, so every night I pray to Satan that I can do it. You'll be shocked, bro. You'll be shocked. And at that time, 10 years have gone by. You don't know she's worshiping Satan, bro. Like, you're out here. There's the Gary controversies happening in your bedroom right now. You know, like I don't know what to tell you. And then, boom, 10 years of your life. You're not getting that time back, you know? Now you have to break up. I hope you break up, you know? Or either she better change. Like, she better change and go back, you know? But yeah, like, what was supposed to be a blissful experience? Yo, I found someone I can share my life with. You did not do your preliminaries. You got so far down the road, and then boom, you get shocked by that. You know?
I mean, an example it's more of like a female thing, but I know that within the church, talking about periods and things like that is just like a no-no. You don't talk about that. Men don't talk about it around men, and it's just like not a thing. And that blows my mind because I'm like, I'm sorry, so you're supposed to date someone for 2 years, never tell them ever that you've had a period during that entire 2 years, and then marry them and expect them to understand how you are, how you act, what you do, what you want to eat, and all those things that come around with your period, and then also expect to have children with that person.
But that's the thing. It makes no sense. And what I find, just on top of that, because you're talking about period, okay?
Yeah.
Now, for me, I feel I would never know about a period if I didn't have sisters and I didn't have a mother, okay? Yeah. But I know about this. My mother's a nurse, right? She knows all these things. If I have any medical questions, I can ask my mom, you know?
Yeah.
And my parents were very good in answering my questions, you know? Like, if I had a deep question, I'd say, what is this? They wouldn't say, oh, you don't need to know about this. They would tell me,
yeah.
You know? Now, what I find is, in the church as a whole, a lot of topics are very taboo. You talk about periods, you talk about masturbation, you talk about porn, you talk about sex. You talk about these things. Nobody wants to tackle them. And I can see it from both sides, because me as an educator in some places, a child will come up to me and say, Kevin, what is this? You know? Now, I don't know what their parent wants them to know, you know? So I can't just go off and say, oh, you asked about this? Well, let me give you the textbook answer, and this is what it is. Because now the parent's like, yo, I wanted to have that conversation with my child when I was ready. You know, I understand that. But what I find is, especially at this age right now, where all of us are pretty much the same age, we're all on to our careers, we're all living our lives. At this point, I find, no, we don't talk about it in the church. But when we have our one-on-one, there's a lot of people who are understanding, because I can tell you, hey, I struggle with doing this. And then my brother can say, you know what? I've also struggled with this. Let's talk about this. How can we get closer to God? How can we fight this? How can we do this? And I do feel that it's a good outlet, you know? Like, our church, we have this thing called Juventus for young men, you know? And the girls had a Fort Femme. Yeah. I don't know how that worked, because I was never present for one of those meetings. I was with Juventus, you know? And I knew in Juventus, these people were my brothers, okay? I could sit down and I could actually talk to them without fear of, oh, it's getting out to the church. A lot of the time you talk to somebody in the church, and we go to a West Indian church. And one thing I know about West Indians, I know about Africans, they love to talk. All the aunties know, all the uncles know. And for me, sometimes I don't even feel comfortable even talking to my mom. I can't even say, yo, mom, you know what? I'm thinking of dating this person. Because if I even show interest, I say, mom, this girl at church looks cute. My mom already planned a wedding for me. So it's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, yeah. So a lot of people, I find, they do retreat and like they would lean on their friends rather than their parents or elders in the church. Yeah. And it's understandable because when you're acting like that, like I don't want to tell you anything because I can't say, hey John, listen, you know, I do this on my days off. And then John's going off and telling the world, I would not want to talk to John. But because we have this relationship where I know I can tell John anything and he's not going to go betray my trust, I am more inclined to tell him these things, you know?
I think that when it comes to relationships though, like those conversations need to be had and they need to be had early. Like
frequently.
Yeah, like you can't wait till you're engaged to talk about sex. You need to talk about sex way before that.
Yeah.
Like, because, I mean, I've met women in the church that have told me that when they don't know if they even want to have sex on their wedding night because they're terrified of sex. And I'm like, if you don't want to have sex with that guy, don't marry him. Like, what in the world? What are you doing to yourself? You're putting yourself in a situation where you're going to feel violated when you sleep with that person. And then you have to spend the rest of your life with them.
The rest of your life traumatized.
Exactly.
On something that's supposed to be a sacred union.
And then you have kids with them, and then the kids leave, and then you're stuck with that person alone again. And I've seen a lot of relationships like that where they never talked to each other before they got married. They got married, they hated each other, had kids to get away from each other. And then when their kids leave, they blow up, they don't know what to do anymore because now they're stuck with each other again. Why would you put yourself in that situation? You could have literally just looked at that person and said, what do you like to eat when you have your period? What do you like with sex? What do you think you would like? What kind of thing do you not like?
How do you understand sex?
Yeah, like what does sex mean to you? What are these things?
But that's the thing. Like sometimes I'm not gonna lie because I know before we started recording we had this little conversation, right? You need to know who you are, you know? Because if you say, how do you understand sex, right? And someone says, if one person believes sex is, hey, two people sleeping beside each other and kissing occasionally, okay, to the person who believes that sex is penis in vagina penetration, they're on two different levels. They are on completely different levels. And say they get married, the person who thinks sleeping beside somebody and kissing, that's sex, what happens when the other one thinks, yo, this is what it has to be? Like they don't know what's going to happen, especially if they don't have that run-up talk, you know? They don't have that talk saying, this is what I believe it is, and this is how I do this is, you know? If you don't have that talk, you're not going to understand it. It's going to shake you, like you say. You're going to be traumatized, and every time this happens, like, you don't know what to do, you know?
And honestly, I think sex is a huge topic that's one of those that, like, there's a lot of topics that people do end up talking about when they're engaged, but sex is one of those that I'm like, you have to talk, and women are kind of like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't know. I shouldn't be thinking about these things. I don't have urges. And they like pretend that they don't have anything. But I'm like, you need to give that information to the person that you're going to marry, that you want to date, and tell them, you know, what I look for in sex is love and care for me. Because a lot of guys are in the mindset that sex is about getting off, and it's not about caring for the girl. But girls are like, look me in my eyes and like love me and like that kind of thing. They're not the same as like, they could care less if they get off. That's not everyone, but I mean.
And like for me, I talk a lot about communication, which brings us to our next section.
Thanks for listening to the first part of our mini-series with Kevin Brouet about the GAAA. The GAAA mini-series is to give you a preview of what we're going to talk about in the rest of the Adventist home. So I would suggest that you listen to all the episodes about the GAAA before you go on to chapter 6. So I hope you enjoyed that first part, so the G, the God-fearing, and join us next week for the second section about academics. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to get in touch with Kevin, you can send an email to info.lessonsforyou@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Facebook at Realtime Talk Podcast, or you can find us on Instagram at realtime_talk. If you speak a different language and would like to translate the GAAA like he asked in the beginning, please send us an email or reach out to us and we can get you in touch with Kevin. Or if you have any feedback at all about the episode or any of the episodes, feel free to leave us a review on Facebook. send us a DM on Instagram, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you can leave a review. It does help us find more viewers, and it helps people who are looking for new podcasts find out if they would actually like to listen to us or not. So please leave us a review, and we will see you for the next episode. So stay in school, Sabbath school, stay in Sabbath school.